Howdy folks, I'm Southern Wolf of Southern Wolf Studios and welcome back to Samurai of Hyuga. Now in this episode I did forget to check the stats, so I apologize for that, but they should be the same as in the last episode. Chapter 13, The Spirit of Greed, Raigenju Dojo. The ronin stood outside the condemned dojo that the izakaya owner described. The sudden afternoon rainstorm had drenched her body to the bone. She looked up into the sky and smiled a wicked grin. Her katana, chipped and rusted from overuse, was already out as she entered. The tatami mats patted her footsteps as she prowled like a starving beast, and starving she was, as her mouth drooled at the idea of seeing Okami again. The raging emotion she felt towards the man threatened to overtake her mind just like her weapon had already. The Jigoku had consumed her years ago, on the day her master was killed and her love betrayed and abandoned her. "Okami-kun, where are you hiding from me?" There was no response. The dojo and living rooms were empty, but there were signs of recent use. Futons laid about unmade, with covers lukewarm to the touch. The salty waft of this morning's miso soup was drifted about, along with freshly brewed tea. It was also quaint and lovely, the thought of Okami living in such peace, and with others. That set the ronin's blood to boil. She would let her rage simmer and steam as she would wait, just as she had for years. "I'm going to send you to hell, my love. We can go together." A crackle of thunder broke out, as if the atmosphere needed to be any more ominous. I sat beneath and below Shiroyama the Charmer, underneath the shadow of golden vipers. The statues were marvelous and smooth, worth an unimaginable amount. The contrast between them and Sasama's lions could not have been greater. Instead of dusty tatami mats, my knees rested on silk cushions. They felt like clouds whose embrace I never wished to leave. The adrenaline, the ferocity of battle had all but faded into a dream. My seat wasn't the only thing that felt like clouds. The sharp edges of my mind started to dull, and any particular thought faded quickly as it came. But this was hardly the first time I'd fought under the influence. I could still visualize how to kill my target in a dozen different ways. Shiroyama's voice was wrapped with anger and frustration, though not towards me. "How can it be that my exquisite hall remains sullied? Are my servants waiting for the corpses to rot?" As soon as the order was given, a dozen condos rushed to wipe down and carry off the result of my handiwork. They worked with such pace and professionalism I couldn't help but wonder just how many had died here. The charmer's attention returned to me. I could feel her gaze even though I refused to meet it with my own. My memory was good enough to recall Momoko's warning from before. I had to avoid looking her in the eyes. "Now Ronin, look at me and tell me your name." "I am Okami, the sword who cuts the heavens." "I am Okami, the sword who cuts the heavens." His Imperial Majesty had given me that title. The most powerful man in Hyuga had granted me an honor no samurai would ever have. It was the reason why I was here. The reason I was about to plunge my katana through this Yakuza ringleader's chest. It was difficult to spout off a remark like that without making eye contact. I could sense Momoko approaching me, but I felt the timing was never better to strike down my target. Check to see if Momoko's alright. Even as dazed and drugged as I was still concerned for the doctor. Momoko walked in here with the confidence I could walk her out. I respected that, and I had to make sure that she was still in one piece. I was afraid Shiroyama might have done something to her while I was occupied downstairs. And I was right to be afraid. Those doe eyes appeared to be in everlasting shock. The black pupils expanded over the entirety of her iris. I didn't need to be a physician to know that wasn't natural. Tears streamed down her otherwise emotionless face. She spoke in a detached tone. "Gomen nasai, Okami-san." Her hands clasped around my skull before I could react and twisted. My vision turned and just inches away was the bodiless head of Shiroyama. The white-painted face shrieked in trilling ecstasy. Her forked tongue twisted out and danced, but it was her neck that halted my heartbeat, engorged with twisted veins, purple and red, pumping blood around its curled vastness. Demons do exist. Shiroyama was a captivating woman, though not in the traditional sense. Aside from her extendable neck and her serpentine tongue, she was extraordinarily ordinary, a middle-aged woman who was neither plump nor gaunt, as plain as any Jinjinto broad. She came across as an Okasan, somebody's mother. A wealthy Okasan who birthed a fortune. The thought passed my mind. Just how lucrative could our relationship be? The thought of killing her no longer had any appeal. The Yakuza boss and I sat across from each other at the miniature table. She carried on a conversation as if nothing I had done before ever occurred. "I cannot help but admire your hair. Very masculine and modern. What horrendous mistakes samurais make when they shave their foreheads, don't you agree? Though to speak on fashion errors," she managed an eerily polite smile, "your kimono leaves something to be desired." I smiled in return. One of the many downsides of a wanderer's lifestyle is his dirty, smelly clothes. Weeks spent trekking about Hyuga in the summer heat had taken its toll, though that might change if she's got an offer. Another misplaced thought. Where were these coming from? Stoic. Thank you for the compliment. I must say the renovations you have done here are quite stunning. My words were light and airy and sounded altogether too much like I was kissing ass. What was happening to me? It wasn't like me to give praise, false or otherwise. I was supposed to be killing this woman, not applauding her for her interior decorations. The Yakuza boss put a finger to her lips as if in thought. The tendrils of her forked tongue slithered around it. You seem knowledgeable about our history. And that accent of yours, paired with those fearsome eyes. Have we met? You contracted me to get rid of someone. Attunement has increased. You contracted me to get rid of someone. In this very chamber, minus the gold statues, minus the polished oak floors and sake fountain, minus those dreadful stairs and this imposing imperial throne, the Yamagata-gumi and their beloved leader were amongst the most honorable and humble of the Yakuza clans, at least by criminal standards anyway. He did make one fatal mistake, however. He didn't keep guards around during his lunch hour. Shiroyama brightened at the memory. Oh yes, I do very much appreciate your discretion in that affair. Where's our tea? Akondo quickly scurried overhead downcast with an ornate silver tray and porcelain tea set. This would be the first time I drank out of anything more expensive than clay. It wasn't until the hostess addressed her that I recognized the servant. How am I just now noticing such a fetching condo in my service? I think I shall find other uses for you later. What is your name? The charmer licked her lips with intentions I didn't wish to dwell on. The aboriginal paused the tea-pouring ritual and bowed with her arms extended and head facing the floor. In her sitting position, I could see the familiar curves I already memorized from weeks of traveling together. I recognized everything aside from the sound coming from her lush lips. This one's name is Doshi. You honor me with your words, exalted ladyship. Doshi bowed deeply and refused to make eye contact with the Yakuza boss, out of respect and, more importantly, caution. I wasn't sure how she got here, but at least one of us still had her head in the game. Another clap of lightning sounded off. The pouring rain outside intensified, but I paid it no heed. Shiroyama's attention had already moved from the condo. It returned to me in more pressing concerns. I owe you a debt for returning Momo-chan, yet, from your actions, I disarray you and have fouler intentions in mind. So tell me. She rotated her neck sideways until her face once again appeared into view. The sight made me wince up, but I couldn't look away. Who is your employer? I tried to hold back my words. I tried to think of a good bluff, but under that gaze my mind drew blank. There was nothing I could tell her but the truth, or at least half of it. Hashimoto. That's Misumi's family name. Powerful families like her are frequent employers of assassins. Individuals such as myself could kill their business rivals or partners, while they reap the benefits. I've seen it time and time again. Often those who weep loudest at the funerals are the ones footing my bill. And speaking about me getting paid, how was the kid gonna pay me? She spoke at length on kabuki performances, but next to nothing on her family. All I knew was that she was a Shingenja on the run from the academy. She could have been excommunicated by her father for all I knew. Bodyguarding someone like that, the thought consumed me, doesn't sound very lucrative. The lengthy neck of our hostess throbbed, veins engorged with anger. Her face was much the same. Those ungrateful inbreds! No doubt they're terrified of my bid over theirs for the Katatiki gold mines. Shiroyama's lips came out with her anger, and it sure wasn't a local accent. The mountains of Katiki were out west, where the condos that didn't bow were driven off to. If they had discovered a mine out there, the entire political landscape would change. But I was just a ronin for hire, and I didn't have to worry about such things. Luckily for me, her anger subsided, though her questioning did not. How much compensation did they give you? I can easily triple that. My eyes expanded much like Momoko's did. My surprised gesture answered the question for me. I wasn't getting paid anything. I feared as much. Just look at you, ragged and sweaty like an impoverished vagrant. Shiroyama's neck extended forward and around me, behind and then inches in front of me. I could feel her neck rubbing against mine. It was far from pleasurable. You're a warrior without equal, a true manslayer who deserves respect and wealth. All the sake you could drink, any woman you desire. This is the heaven that money brings. The discomfort from our close proximity dwindled and died. All I could feel was the bliss from her words and the life that they promised. No more sleepless nights outside on the hardened dirt. No more days without a warm meal. Could my miserable past become just a bad dream? Her words continued, my mind hanging on each syllable. I can grant you other gifts as well, my samurai. I hold powers beyond this realm. Do you wish to gain resistance over poison? Have a body immune to venom? She returned her neck back around into its proper position, or perhaps you wish to forgo the human weakness of daily sustenance. as only a snake needs to eat but once a month. I can grant you this, if that's your desire." She paused once more before sipping a cup of tea. Her tongue darted out like an arrow lapping the black brew before speaking. "Or if you wish, I can extend that tongue of yours. You may find uses for a longer one, but I'll let you figure those out by yourself." The powers she offered were each amazing and extraordinary. Which one did I choose? Poison resistance. Attunement has greatly decreased. Okami surrendered to his greed. Power. I want more power. To be the strongest. To be respected. To be loved and feared. I want a body that could no longer be slowed or weakened, not by snake's venom nor a doctor's narcotics. I want to be invincible, and if I can have this, then what else could Shiroyama give me? My mind entered a delirium just imagining all I could obtain. The charmer's eyes rolled backwards as she howled in a deep and guttural laugh. Her head lurched forward and back like a ball on a chain. Her swinging motions sprayed spit all over me. I couldn't help but feel like she was going to eat me. Even so, I couldn't help but think of a way to please my new master. Her laughter and saliva finally subsided. "Oh, but it never ceases to amuse me. Even the most determined and enduring of spirits fall into the presence of greed. You are nothing but a slave to your avarice like all the others. Why would I, Shiroyama the Charmer, grant you anything? Now grovel at my feet. Kiss the toes of your owner." I didn't hesitate. I couldn't. I crawled over on all fours like an obedient dog. No, at least a dog could bark. My voice had escaped me long ago. Even here, wet with her spit and inches from her yellowed nails, I couldn't say anything to break my silent shame. What should I be ashamed of? I've never had anything to be proud of, I thought to myself, but there were others who were proud of me, and I'd let each and every one of them down. Toshi and the Emperor painted me as a spiritual savior. Now I was nothing more than a slave to an Oni, a demon that was only supposed to exist in ghost stories. Thinking back, Momoko would have been better off as a blood splatter beneath Tetsuzan Bridge. Mitsumi, the kid, would forever curse the day that she hired me as a bodyguard. And who was I missing? The doors to the chamber broke open with a light and thunderous force that could only be lightning. A flood of water started pouring in. From the entrance emerged a man, a tall figure whose hair flew in the wind at his back. He wore a karate uniform as beaten up as his powerful frame. "Prepare yourself, Shiroyama. I am the Shingenja Hachirobe, blessed by the dragon spirit, Suijin." "Ow, ow, ow. These ropes are too tight. Show a Shingenja some respect, jeez," Hachirobe complained to his captors. While his entrance was dramatic and intimidating, he was quickly sized up by the Yakuza. The only reason he lost, he argued, was because he was low on mana. A pair of burly thugs brought him upstairs while he tried to resist. Shiroyama licked her lips. "A Shingenja? Oh, how I desire one, and a fetching male at that. Finally a man worthy of mating with." Upon hearing that, Hachi's resistance increased tenfold. But what was he doing here, and why did he claim to be a magician? He should be out trying to rally the city watch, out somewhere safe, away from here. Toshi too. Why is she here serving our tea? Protective. And the kid? I worried even my bewitched state of mind. Where's Masumi? Is she safe? I designated the plan specifically to keep them out of harm's way. They betrayed me. They don't respect me. They don't trust me. My thoughts twisted and turned against them. I looked towards Hachi with eyes expanded in sheer hatred. It was now a token of my master's attention. I wanted it all to myself. Sheesh, Masumi-chan was right. Hachi gave me an uncertain smile. Now if Okami-san gets consumed by evil, I'm supposed to, The Street Fighter rattled his mind for a memory. I'm supposed to distract you long enough for... That was the sound of my throat losing its air. Toshi latched onto me with her arms clenched tight around my neck. I jerked and tossed about wildly, trying to shake the ninja off me. My so-called friends were trying to kill me. Okami-san, you must be unconscious to enter the spirit realm. Seek Matsumi-san and overcome your greed. Toshi shouted behind my ears while I slammed her over and down the stairs. I believe in you, sword who cuts the heavens. My vision faded to black. I woke up coughing in a meadow of sunflowers. My vision was barraged by a field of golden petals beneath the crisp blue sky. My head spun in a painful dizziness, like a hangover from a week-long festival. The eerie and windless silence sent shivers down my back. At least, I decided, is a nicer view than Shiroyama's feet. I broke the silence and my voice traveled in waves. The memories of those disgusting yellow nails brought the taste of bile to my mouth. I'd been a masterless ronin for years, yet I'd been prepared to kiss each of those toes. I'd have done anything to please her. And for what? The promise of power? A better and easier life? Of a more comfortable, long ride into my grave?
Since when did Okami care about things like that?
I looked around frantically. My thoughts had become words, but not from my mouth. There was someone else here, hiding in the sunflower field. Only now I didn't notice how gigantic these plants were. They were above average height. Some were even taller than me. I then wondered why the ground was so close beneath me. I brought my hands up to discover they weren't mine at all, but a child's. I had stubby arms and legs, which poked out from my woolen kimono. The sound of rustling drew closer and my katana was nowhere to be found. 4 odd figures emerged in the clearing. Animals, but each of them strange. They looked at me with blank expressions, or at least that's what I imagined. Each was waiting for me to make a move. Which should I approach? The red panda, an almost unnatural cute and tiny red-furred raccoon. It ran about in circles chasing its white striped tail. Attunement has increased. I'd recalled my conversation which occurred back at the Lion Temple, back before it was burnt to the ground. During our chit-chat with His Imperial Majesty, the kid mentioned her spirit animal. This cute little guy. I approached the red panda, who paid me no heed. It was far more concerned over its tail, which it chased in a futile effort. It was either remarkably cute or a figurative symbol of life's pointless and eternal struggle. I opted to go with the former. Perverted. Hey, stop that. If I don't have time to chase tail, then neither do you. I sighed at my own words. The lack of free time was making Okami a dull boy. At least I managed to get the panda's attention. The red-furred critter stopped its chase and yawned at me. It stood up on its hind legs and patted its tiny paws together. Before I could interpret its meaning, the field around us changed. The sun faded into moonlight. The flowers wilted, and the ground beneath us rose upward. I fell backwards from my vertigo, and my mind was running in fearful spirals. We were up high and only going higher. I didn't want to look over the edge or be anywhere near it. For some reason, I was in the body of a child, and now I felt as helpless as one. And then the edges shrunk. The floor was growing smaller, and the safety non-existent. The wind rasped and the air chilled as we entered the sky. There was nothing to hold on to. I cried out like a little boy, with a voice I hadn't heard in ages. A red panda climbed up my kimono and nested in my hair. The two of us were going to fall to our deaths. A ghostly voice whispered in the cold breeze, "What would you do if you had no fear?"
I'd face down the shadows of my past.
Attunement has increased.
I'd face down the shadows of my past.
I nodded grimly. In front of me appeared a mirror, with the reflection of a child in dire need of a bath. He stared at me with eyes glassed over from what he'd seen. His hands were red and wet with blood that wasn't his own. He peered into me as if life had given up on him, and he'd given up on it. I wanted to reach out, to grab a hold of those tiny shoulders and tell him it'd be okay, to tell him that life went on for better and for worse. I touched the mirror and the reflection shattered, and the world changed once again. Thank the spirits I was back on solid ground, to Tommy mats to be exact. Around me was the crumbling walls of a half-bent support beams I knew all too well. I was back at the Raigingu dojo. Of all the fantastical places I could be, I was stuck in Hachi's condemned bachelor pad. My buddy Red Panda-san scurried off and over. He climbed up a red silk kimono and perched on the wearer's shoulders. My eyes climbed a feminine figure so beautiful my heart skipped a beat. Her elegant bangs framed her heart-shaped face perfectly. The kimono did likewise to her slender curves. In her delicate hand she held an umbrella, painted red with pink cherry blossoms to match her robe. A white lily was clipped behind her ear, which fluttered with her hair in the breeze. The lady's face grew red and soon all illusion of elegance died. "Baka, stop staring this instant!" Her cheeks puffed out and her voice was distinctly juvenile. Her arms crossed and I finally realized who I was fawning over. "Mitsumi?" The maiden twirled her umbrella and smirked. "That's Mitsumi-senpai to you, kid. Nyeh." She pulled down her eyelid and stuck her tongue out. The childish taunt looked bizarre on her otherwise dignified appearance. Charming. Do you mind explaining what's going on here? Besides the fact that you've stolen both my age and my good looks? I asked with a confident smile. I couldn't let the kid's newfound attractiveness get the better of me. Matsumi was still just a kid, and I had to focus. "Appearances in the spiritual realm are self-actualized. I just happen to find that this form suits me better." She cleared her throat and continued. "Why you've become so cute, Okami-kun, is beyond my knowledge. Perhaps an event in your past conflicts with your metaphysical psyche." The kid, or rather, the woman, trailed off in a complex subject that I wasn't apt to do. It seemed as if it was up to me to direct our conversation. I had only hoped that it wouldn't lead me to more comments about how cute I was. "It's great you got the spiritual world thing figured out, but back in Hyuga, the team's getting trounced by a snake demon." "It's great you got the spiritual world thing figured out, but back in Hyuga, the team's getting trounced by a snake demon." Grown-up Natsumi guessed in excitement, replying with a flurry of questions. "A snake oni? They exist?" The Shingenja heaved up and down with excitement. "Is it a Niriona? Or perhaps a Hibi no Ona? I must know, Okami!" Charming. I was taken aback by her enthusiasm. I wasn't exactly a scholar on Ona like some people. Let's just say she's got a bit of a neck problem. "A Rokurokubi, deceptive and vile women with serpentine aspects, and an odd fondness for lamp oil," Natsumi explained eagerly. She couldn't have been more pleased. The fiction books she obsessed over were coming to life, and while that was all well and good, there was a matter that needed to be addressed. Turning Hachi into a half-rate Shingenja, the spiritual intervention, whatever it is. This wasn't part of my plan. Natsumi's umbrella disappeared. She placed her delicate hands by her equally delicate waistline and pouted. Is that so? Would you rather us dawdle about with Sohi? Even if I revealed my status, how can I ask them to charge in here against a criminal syndicate? She continued to unleash her growing frustration. You're under the impression that you're so great, so infallible that you don't need anyone else's help. Toshi-san and Hachi-san just want to help you, and you just throw us aside. Her yell lashed out in echoing force that slammed up against my chest and knocked me back like a rag doll. My head managed to stop rolling with a concussive blow against the dojo's wall. I was seeing triple. I'd never been walloped like that before, and my child body wasn't helping. I saw 3 Mitsumis standing over me, 6 streams of tears, 3 sets of sniffling noses. Held in this beautiful woman's embrace, I couldn't help but find it soothing. I'm your bodyguard, remember? I'm supposed to keep you safe. Attunement has increased. I'm your bodyguard, remember? I'm supposed to keep you safe. Now, how I was supposed to protect her, cradled in her arms like this, was another matter. I should have broken out of her hold and said something gallant, but I didn't. I didn't want to leave her warm embrace. I felt a calmness coming over me, and when I looked up into her eyes, I imagined her as my mother. The thought troubled me. Fantasizing Matsumi as my mother. Fears help me. I hope Momoko studies psychology. The Shingenja went from 3 blurry figures to 2, then to 1. Her sniffling and tears stopped, though her voice was leveled with regret. Gomen-nasai, for being such a burden. Her voice lowered to a whisper. I'll grow up fast for you, I promise. I need to lighten up on Matsumi's spirit, that the tension was getting a bit too heavy. I untangled myself and spoke up. Hachi mentioned something about a bet between you two. Apparently you won. A victorious grin grew over the beautiful maiden's face. I knew you'd give in to your greed. You're so stingy. She chuckled for a moment before growing somber. But who am I to preach generosity? The Hashimoto family as well. You know. Matsumi looked away from me in disgrace. With such wealth, I've never had a strong desire for anything. Not really. My stomach never once growled from hunger until I journeyed with you. So how can I lecture you on anything, Okami? I was surprised by the sudden burst of maturity from my usually childish companion. It was an insight that prompted me to ask, so how can I overcome my greed? I'm tired of getting controlled by this monster. After a few moments of brainstorming, Matsumi asked me a question. If you had everything you ever wanted, Okami, what would you do? Who would you be? You probably don't want me to go into details. Needless to say that there's a harem involved. Attunement has increased. You probably don't want me to go into details. Needless to say that there's a harem involved. I've got desires and needs as much as the next guy. Mine just happens to include a futon filled of oiled up geishas and a sensual massage or 2, or 20. I'd have a wide variety of buxom beauties from throughout Hyuga and beyond. They'd worship me and love me because I paid them to? Nah, that's not right. I want a harem for my own merit. I want those busty broads screaming my names because they actually love me. I don't want their fake and hollow ecstasy. I want their legs to buckle and their mouths to water because I am desirable, not my roe. Natsumi's face flushed and anger peaked. But Baka! I would demand you to be serious, but I fear you actually are. Even if you did all those filthy acts, then what? There's more to life than such vulgarity. I nodded in reluctant defeat. You're right. Even with my imagination, it would grow dull eventually. So what's your point, Matsumi? Struggles and difficulties are important to make us who we are, making us better. Why just look at Pankun? The Shingenja tilted her head over to the critter formerly known as Red Panda-san. The cute little guy jumped on his hind legs and gave his master a kiss on the cheek. He then started clapping his paws together until Matsumi kissed him back. It wouldn't do half bad as stage performers. My point is, the woman continued, what Satsuma-sama said at the Lion Temple was true. Before our adventure, my attunement with my spirit was weak. After knowing you, after knowing how it felt to be hunted down and live with the less fortunate, The kid was talking about Yamato and making me feel horrible. It wasn't all bad. The koi was good. Matsumi's brow furrowed as she finished her summary. To have someone you care about poisoned, and to have someone else you care about on the verge of suicide. These ordeals have changed me. They've made me stronger, don't you agree? I didn't have anything to say to that. I'd introduced someone so young and inexperienced to a Hyuga that was fraught with danger, bursting at the seams with the ugliest facets of humanity. Racism, narcotics, and murder to name a few. I could have done more to prepare her, or at least shielded her eyes. My inner monologue of regret was interrupted by a terrifying howl. An enormous wolf starved with its ribcage showing growled as it approached. The sound was frightening, but its eyes, those yellow fearsome eyes, They didn't belong on an animal, but a human that fought like one. A human I once loved, betrayed, and abandoned. Junko. The name sparked the beast into a sprint. It charged directly at me with its jaws open and mouth foaming. Its ragged teeth were on full display, grounded points as sharp as any arrowhead. I froze up in fear like the little boy I appeared to be. The wolf leapt into the air and Mitsumi stood in front of me as a shield. I watched as the beast closed its jaws over the back of her neck. The Shingenja, the kid, the person I was supposed to protect, looked at me as the beast tore her open. The pain and shock on her face ingrained itself into my mind. She reached out towards me with a desperate cry. The yell silenced itself. From her lips came a spray of blood. She choked out from her half-eaten windpipe, desperate for air, gurgling the fluids rushing down her throat. The beast drenched itself red and mauled tendon from bone. I lost everything, including my consciousness.